is my business broken? Like, are people just not buying from me? Are people just not spending? Anybody who tells you that you will never be touched in a massive shift in the world, frankly, is manipulating you and is telling you something to make you buy a big promise that doesn't exist. Not going to happen to me. Not going to touch me. I hate to break it to you, but it's something that you're going to have to experience. The world is changing. There's policies under consideration, big changes in government. But what does it mean for us? What does it mean for an entrepreneur? What does it mean for you and for your business? Does this business even have a future? You must have a bulletproof mindset to be able to experience all the resistance and still have resilience during times of, for example, a recession. Anyone who's been in business for decades will tell you every business has to adapt. Every business is impacted. Whether they survive is the difference. Hello and welcome back to Ambitious. Today we are diving into a topic that I think is going to be very, very relevant for you and probably something, to be honest, that you're already hearing, seeing, experiencing right now in your world. And the way you hear and experience that can be from a variety of different sources. So it could be, when you tune into the news, you see things and conversations about the fact that the world is changing. There's policies under consideration, big changes in government and what that's going to mean for all different types of businesses, people, individuals, communities, and so much more. And the thing that I know is that many of us are surrounded by these conversations, but we also don't necessarily have people telling us, okay, but what does this mean for me as a business owner? So if there are changes in government, if there are changes in policy, for example, like, banning of TikTok, right, was something that was up for discussion. If there is changing even in the world economy and how people are spending and understanding of the stock market and what's happening there, we know all these notifications are happening. But what does it mean for us? What does it mean for an entrepreneur? What does it mean for you and for your business? And so today I want to unpack, number one, how we actually understand changes in the economy as business owners. What does it mean for us? How do we understand that and really make it contextual to what it means for us as business owners? But also, what are signs that, maybe your business is being impacted or is starting to see changes that are a result of the changing economy? And also, what can you do to prepare your business should you go through a tough season or a tough period in the world or in the economy? And I want to say, obviously there's a lot of media and there's a lot of different things that will throw around this word of recession, right? We've been seeing a lot of that all over, of this kind of loom of a potential recession being upon us or the starting of a recession. And I'm not here to speak on that today, but what I am here to speak about is helping you to navigate tough times in business from an environmental standpoint. And another example of this would be, for example, COVID. When COVID happened, there was such a big environmental shift, meaning everything around us as business owners, if you were someone who had a restaurant at that time, you were feeling the impact of COVID. I know someone who's, for example, a makeup artist, and she goes on site, on location with people, and she couldn't because of COVID. So no matter what business you're in some capacity, when there are changes in the world, your business is also going to be impacted. And so today's episode is designed to help give you an understanding of how to understand what that means for you. And again, also how to navigate steps and actions that you can take. So listen, the first thing that I want to say is I want to take away, this, I think truthfully, if I could just label it candidly, like this fear that so many of us have around what these times will mean for us, and this belief that it's going to basically wipe us out in business. Because the way that I look at business, especially in context to tough times, is the fact that, tough times are going to happen. You're going to have storms that happen in your business. And truthfully, I will say, of all the businesses that I've seen that have been around for years and years and years, they take efforts to protect their home and to create a lot of stability in their home that can weather a storm. And I really believe that, again, things are going to happen in the environment, things are going to happen in the world, and shifts are going to change. But the only thing that you can really control today is understanding, number one, how you prepare yourself, but number two, how you respond in the sense of in the moment, what you're going to do and the actions you're going to take. And we're going to talk about both today. So I also want to normalize, any type of, recession or potentially a change that is a significant strain in the economic condition is typical every 5 to 10 years. That's something that as a business owner, if you're thinking you're going to be in business for the next 20 years and you're just not going to be impacted by that, there are literally stats to tell us that these situations of economic strain are happening every 5 to 10 years. So, the thing I want to note about this is for you, I need you to go in acknowledging and accepting and being aware that there is going to be some form of financial or operational strain every 1 to 3 years in your business, and a more severe and a more prolonged hardship roughly every 5 to 10 years. Okay. So you can experience a little bit of strain in your business once every 1 to 3 years, and a little bit more of a prolonged strain, due to something, for example, like a recession, should that come to be, every 5 to 10 years. And so I think it's first really important for us to acknowledge the fact that, no business is really ever recession proof. And what I mean by that is there's no business that during a recession or tough economic time is going to become completely untouched. And anybody who tells you that you will never be touched in a massive shift in the world, frankly, is manipulating you and is telling you something to make you buy a big promise that doesn't exist. Anyone who's been in business for decades will tell you every business has to adapt. Every business is impacted. Whether they survive is the difference, which is really how they respond to the changes. And so, with this, when we look at how they respond, for example, one of the things that we know is when COVID, for example, happened, there was a lot of businesses that, with that rattling of the cage of how they used to do business really being flipped on its head overnight, 82% of those businesses went out of business strictly based off the fact that they didn't have cash flow. They physically did not have enough money to sustain the storm. And so it's really important for us to acknowledge that this is going to be part of our world. So I'm not here to be the doom and gloom. I'm actually here, to be honest, to inspire you, to support you, to have you back in the driver's seat and realizing, okay, like this is something that I have to be ready for. And the example I gave to clients is like if you're somebody who lives in a specific area in the world where tornadoes happen, we're not going to say like I just put myself on the street, I'm not going to be touched by a tornado. Tornadoes are possible for specific, houses in any certain area. But the houses that sustain are the ones who built themselves in a certain way, or who have actually prepared, tornado bunks and, areas in their home that they can be at when these storms arrive. And so we see this even, for example, you'll see footage on the news of floods and people, for example, during floods who have this one home that seemed to be untouched because of how they set up and structured the surrounding of their home. Same thing with the fires. There are locations where, there's homes that were untouched by fires. So yes, all of us are going to have us surrounding us, but how we prepare for it is what we're here to talk about today. And also, I think this is one that I really want to emphasize. Since World War II, there have been over 13 different recessions that have happened, all on average lasting around 11 months. And the 11 months aspect is the one that I want to accentuate here for you. Because the important thing for us to recognize is that when things are changing in the world, when we are experiencing these really tough economic strains, we also need to remember that they don't necessarily last forever. Now, again, yes, some will last longer and shorter, but on average, we literally know by data that they last around 11 months on average. So, what does this tell us? It means that if you are someone who's going through a tough time, it does not necessarily mean that this is going to last 5 years. It doesn't mean it's going to last 8 years. It could mean, on average, that it might last around 11 months to 1 year in length. And so when we're thinking about, okay, how do we navigate a tough economic time as a business owner or entrepreneur, it's no longer about this idea that we have to figure out what we're going to do for the next 5 years. We need to be able to get through the storm, that just like, a tornado or a flood or a fire is going to come and it's going to go. But whether we navigate that time and survive that really depends on a variety of factors, which we're going to dive into. So, one of the things that I want to do is I want to equip you with an understanding and an awareness, because I think a lot of the time as business owners, we can feel like we know things are changing in the world. We know that there's things that are shifting, but we're not quite sure, is this my business that's the issue? Or is this the fact that the world is changing and my business is just simply being impacted. And so I want to equip you with some signs and really like symptoms, frankly, of things that you're going to see in your business that could be a very clear indicator that you're being impacted by the changing of like the world economy. So really, I want you to almost think about these as like your, resistance symptoms show up list. So as things show up, these are going to be the symptoms that you're going to feel of times of resistance. One of the biggest ones that many of us are all going to feel, see, and experience is sales and revenue dips. So this can actually be fewer sales, it can be drops in conversion, and it can also be things like higher unsubscribe rates from something like email and also higher abandoned cart rates. Here's the thing, fewer sales in general, when you feel like you're not making as much money as you once did, I want to normalize that, because sometimes what can happen, and there's businesses even in the last year who've been having these conversations, they start to feel like they're alone. You start to feel like, is my business broken? Like, are people just not buying from me? Are people just not spending? And the thing we want to remember is that even in the tough times, there will be people who are making sales, but sales can feel harder. And it can also feel like you're not generating what you used to, especially the speed of which you used to. So you want to remember that you will see typically fewer sales. And you also are going to see a drop potentially in conversion at these times. And with that, people who are looking at your offers maybe, or seeking out your offers, but not necessarily completely fulfilling the process. And because of this, when we see a dip in sales, what's directly tied to that? Cash flow restraints, which is the fact that many of us, because we're maybe not making as many sales, may even see a dip in our monthly recurring revenue and the monthly cash that we're bringing into the business. Or we might even see things like, more delayed payments from clients, more failed payments coming in, feeling like you're having to make more flexible payment plans for people as a result of the times. Or you might even find in some industries, the things that used to be like premium pricing that you feel like you almost like didn't even need to sell before. It felt like they would just kind of sell on their own. You're like, wait a second, now we're really having to sell these. And so if you're somebody who also feels like you're having to really push your premium price points that maybe before you didn't have to push or promote, this can also be a indicator of cash flow tightness, which is a result of the times. Now, the other thing that you'll also see is going to be things like customer behavior shifts, which are things like talking to people in sales conversations where you're feeling like they're asking for discounts, they're asking for, extensions, maybe even having people increase the amount of refunds that they're asking for. And the most significant that I see with customer behavior change right now is the fact that people are taking longer to buy, and there's actually an increase in the frequency of how many people or how often people are ghosting. I was talking to a business owner the other day who has been in business for many, many years and has been through like easy times and hard times. And they were saying, like back in the day, you used to be able to have someone see you, find you, and within like 24 hours, a good majority of people had the ability to invest. And now it feels like the same conversation of a sales conversation might, number one, take multiple touch points, but it also might need more time in the sense of like, say it was 2 days, it might take 4 days, could take up to 10 days for that person to convert now. And so it really starts to rattle us as business owners, right? Because we wonder, okay, is my sales process broken? Is this, something that I'm doing wrong? Is it the client's not serious? We start to get in our head about what do all these changes mean. And so I want to be here as a place to tell you that if you, during resistance or changing times in the world, are seeing your sales processes extend and seeing them get longer, that is actually normal. And that is actually typical of any time that we are seeing a resistance or massive changes happening in the world. And that is because, there are people who start to get nervous. There's people who start to get, pulling their purse strings closer, if you will, because there's so many changes and uncertainty happening in the world. And so they're making the investment and the buying decisions with a more critical and analytical mind than they may have previously. So, with this, you'll also see people that are wondering about urgency, which is the fact that, can I DIY this on my own? Can I potentially get something free information wise, like a download or chat GPT or somewhere like a book or a podcast? Can they solve their problem on their own? And people start to really look at their own internal, resourcefulness really, that will look at, okay, do I need to invest? Is this something I need to invest in? And you also, because of that, are going to see that transfer to your sales process, right? So, another sign is also in the team and operation bucket, which is you're going to find that, you're probably going to have hours getting cut because people need to save money. They're looking at, okay, where are we bloated within the business, meaning where are we spending a lot, but maybe where can we afford to be more strategic or cut back a little bit? And then when people see those areas, they say, okay, great. Well, I'm going to cut back on those and try to use that to stockpile money and save money. And with this, usually because people are cutting back on team, maybe it's a VA, maybe it's someone that you've completely outsourced to, like an agency. It could be a contractor. It could even be like a full on, full-time team member that you've had to move to part-time. Because of that, when we see shifts in team, we also see people who get very burnt out because the business tasks start to pile up and pile up. And with that, you don't have as many team members as you once did to support you with the things that you're looking to do. So, with this, we usually have a lot of hiring freezes, which means that people are, generally speaking, not hiring as much because of concerns around money. And because of that, you're also kind of seeing the lack of delegation translate into lack of growth of the business. So, it really has a domino effect. And another thing that I see is people downsizing their offers, which is the fact that they are looking to, really look at how they can streamline their offerings to not have so many things that they need to promote and sell, and most importantly, have money to deliver, right? So say I'm somebody who has, 4 co-coaches. Well, if I have a program and a mastermind that has 4 co-coaches and I'm looking again to reduce costs potentially, I might reduce that offer down and focus on something closer like a group program or a course or something that's a little bit easier from a delivery standpoint. And of all these things I've listed, this really messes with your mindset because with all these changes that we talked about, right? If we're looking at, okay, well, sales aren't what they used to be and they're not as easy as they once were. The cycle's a little bit longer. I'm having some failed payments come in from clients. I'm feeling like cash flow is feeling a little bit tight. People aren't buying the way that they used to. Organic reach maybe isn't getting on social media what it once did. I'm worried I might have to cut down hours, right? Like as I'm listing these off, I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling anxious. Like I'm like, okay, whoa, what an environment to build a business in. And the thing that we want to remember is like in these times when you're seeing all of these situations happen, we start to second guess. We start to wonder like, am I cut out for this? Is my business going to make it? You know, is this my business problem or is this something happening in the world problem? And it's just kind of, grazing by me and impacting me. Should I be pivoting? Should I stay in what I'm doing or should I pivot? Maybe you have anxiety around any future planning and worrying about, can I even sustain this business long term? Does this business even have a future? And so there's so many mindset hurdles that also come up for us. And one of the things I want to say is if any of these experiences are things that you're thinking, you're feeling, that maybe you're even doing or going through right now, I want to say, first of all, I see you because there's so many business owners that I work with who, when times are difficult, really have this internal dialogue of like, am I the problem? Is my business failing? Or do I feel like there's resistance of the world that's just impacting me? And this is just a storm that I got to prepare to navigate. And so, 9 times out of 10, I will say that there are a lot of things that a business can do to protect themselves. And as a result, I'm not of the belief that, in these times that you have to surrender and be like, well, times are tough. I gave it a go. I tried to grow the business, tried to scale the business, and I can't, right? It's a decision to lean in. It's a decision to weather the storm. And I want to give you an example of this because, even during COVID, right? Think about the fact that you're a restaurant and you're somebody who needed people to be in your location, butts in seats, as they put it, to get people in your store or in your restaurant to be able to sustain. Well, if a restaurant didn't shift to doing something, before restaurants opened up and everything again, if you hadn't shifted to doing something like, an Uber Eats or a DoorDash or something along that line, like you killed your business. Your business went under because it meant that you were not having a way to generate anything during that time. I also saw this, for example, like a makeup artist, as I noted. If you're somebody who during COVID was not able to meet in person, you could either say, hey, well, I gave it a go. Like, I guess this is what takes out my business. Or you could decide to make a online digital product that teaches people how to do their own makeup at home and find a way to deliver intentionally. I had a really incredible girlfriend who had a wine business. And she pivoted beautifully. And she's such a testament to this because she was doing in person wine tastings for people. And so when COVID happened, again, no people getting together. So she was very smart and basically decided that she was going to do virtual wine tastings where the bottles of wine were shipped to your house and you all met on Zoom and had kind of like tasting notes and an experience with people, which filled the gap of not only allowing her to continue to do wine tastings, but it also allowed the main thing that people wanted during COVID to happen, which was community and connection, because so many of us were lacking that from being isolated. So the reason I mention this is there's also I want to show you an opportunity to decide to see the storm, acknowledge the storm, and do something anyways. And so I wanted to dive into the stats and I wanted to dive into signs because I think to start, we need to first acknowledge storms are going to happen. As I said, every 1 to 3 years, you are going to experience some resistance of some aspect. You're going to experience an intense resistance every 5 to 10 years. So if you are in this bucket of like, not going to happen to me, not going to touch me, I hate to break it to you, but it's something that you're going to have to experience. So you will experience rain and a storm over you at some point in your life. That is inevitable. However, whether you are in the middle of a rainstorm wearing a sweater or wearing a waterproof jacket with an umbrella is the difference of what we're going to talk about today. The next 7 steps are going to help you to really be able to create resilience in resistant times. There's 7 things that I would focus on for every single business as core principles that will help you to be able to have that waterproof jacket, to have that umbrella, to navigate the storm of a changing world, of a changing economy. So the first thing we're going to dive into is step 1 being you want to look at how you can diversify your income streams. So one of the things that many people will do is that they have this belief, okay, well, I have this one way I've made money and I don't want to change it. And again, as I said with the examples I just outlined, if you are somebody who is so, and Gary Vee talks about this, I love this quote from him, if you romanticize the way you do business, it is the fastest way to go out of business. And it couldn't be more true because if you are someone who's only going to say, I only do this offer, I only make my money this way, I only sell in this specific pathway, it could be the mindset and the belief and the perspective that frankly puts you out of business. So we want to be open to not relying on just one offer. We want to be open to looking at, okay, are there ways I can get creative about where I sell and where I generate income for the business that would allow me to help a wider variety of people? So this could be, for example, if you are an agency doing things like, in-person intensives with people, less of a, 3 or 6 month contract. It could be the consideration of adding digital products to your business. It could be adding things like affiliate income or VIP days. It could be looking at just how can I diversify the different types of offerings that I have to really allow myself to not only have income coming from different places, but also to be able to resonate with different types of ideal clients who are a good fit for each one of those services or offers. And so what I see oftentimes is people will look to say, how can I have this mix of both, say, passive income or low ticket items, as well as high ticket items or things that are more considered to be active delivery? We can look to diversify what it is that we're offering so we have more offerings for more people with a wide variety of problems. So as a result, you're able to solve more problems for more people. So first we want to look at is actually diversifying your income stream. So I'll even give you an example for myself. One of the things that we do when we see that things are shifting or are changing in the world is that we look to go to our offerings and say, okay, great, how can we get innovative to make sure that we really are focusing on helping as many people to solve as many different types of problems as possible. So for example, we have a free ambitious network, which by the way, if you want to join us inside, just message me the word ambitious on Instagram and I'll get you added in there. We have the ambitious network. We have things like our membership, which is the Scale Sessions membership. It is a monthly membership for Hot Seat Coaching for like $100 a month. And we also have a mastermind. We have VIP days. We have private mentorship. We have a plethora of different types of, call it, products or offerings that really are tailored to different people with different problems. So it means that, let's just say if I had the alternative, if I just had one mastermind and I had nothing else to offer people, what it means is that I am really pouring all my eggs in this one basket. And it means if the market decides that that's not what people want, if people are not investing in that the same way during trying times, or if people just change their buying behavior in any way, if that's the only thing that is the basis of the business, it has more risk associated with it. So, what I usually will do is if I feel like there's a change happening in the market, I will look to diversify my offerings, to diversify the amount of people I can help, the amount of problems that I can solve. And I then use that to gather information to see what trends are happening as to what are people buying and why are they buying it, in the sense of where is the traffic going and is it shifting? Because I will tell you, even in the last, I want to say 3 years, I have seen such a big shift, even in my own product suite, as to how people are buying and what they're buying and why they're buying it. So I look to diversify to make sure that I'm always got something to help me to gather more of that information, and also, again, more people and more problems. The second thing that you want to focus on is really building a cash cushion. And I cannot emphasize this enough. The amount of businesses that are running, frankly, basically we call it paycheck to paycheck. You're running month to month and you are, frankly, 60 days away from going out of business because you don't necessarily have a cash reserve. And now, as I say this, I know someone's going to say, well, Kate, like, that's easy to say when you're making a lot of money and, you're selling a lot and you're generating a lot of sales. But this doesn't have to necessarily be, somebody who's making $30,000 a month or $100,000 a month, right? This can even be if you are someone making 7K right now or 5K right now a month. Taking a little bit, a small percentage of every single month and putting that aside. And you kind of can even have this, like for me, I have a kind of auto deposit every single month that comes off of my business bank accounts and as well my personal bank accounts. And that little reserve, and again, the number is not what I'm worried about here. I'm not saying you have to put away $500 or $1,000. It's all relative to how much your business is making. So it's really a matter of a percentage of your total income that month. But you should be taking and having an auto deposit of a certain amount of money allocated to a different account for you to build a cash reserve. Because as I said, let's go back to the beginning stat. We know that on average, there's been 13 different recessions that have happened since World War II, on average lasting around 11 months each. So what it means is that if we have cash, if we have money to keep us afloat, it means that we can survive the storm. What we're doing with that cash, I want you to literally think about that as like your little bunker. You're creating your little bunker and your survival kit in your storm bunker to allow you to weather the storm. And that cash in your business is that thing. You need to have a cash reserve of anywhere between minimum 3 months up to 6 months of operating expenses to allow yourself to have that safety blanket, to not feel like if something doesn't happen the next 60 days, your business is going to go under. So the thing that I want to invite you with is to not need a recession to happen, to not need, everything in the world to completely blow up in order for you to take action on this. This is something that you can do today, right now, as you listen to this. You can decide, I'm going to, even let's just take, $200 a month, and I'm going to start to put that away. And once that gets transferred out of your account, that's not money that you're going to be looking at. It's an amount that you want to leave in a separate account that sits there for your rainy day fund. The fact that something is going to happen in the business one day, 1 month, and you're going to experience some kind of resistance in some fashion, and that's going to be there to support you. So you also want to know your numbers monthly. One of the things that I often see too with businesses is that they have P&Ls, they have, profit and loss, they have cash flow sheets, they have a general understanding of how much the business is making. But I find a lot of the times business owners are surprised by their financial circumstances. They're surprised by how much they're making or frankly not making. And so that to me is really a byproduct, the fact that you're not tuning into your numbers nearly enough and you kind of are just to be honest, putting them on a side burner and not really wanting to acknowledge them. And it's because you're not acknowledging them that oftentimes you can end up in a worse financial position than if you had been regularly looking at them. Because if you're looking at your numbers regularly, you can see, hey, we have a 6-month runway here before cash starts to kind of, fizzle out. We have a 3-month runway here before cash starts to fizzle out. So, because of that, when you have better eyes and visibility on your numbers, you can also strategize and get ahead of what's going to be coming down the pipeline your way. And also, which will help with this, is really making sure from a cash flow side, you are prioritizing monthly recurring revenue, or at a minimum, you're really, really good with financial management. So, what I mean by that is if you're someone who's doing a lot of pay in fulls, or you have even potentially a service that's a very front loaded investment. So, for example, say I'm like a web designer and I have a big, 1 week project for somebody. And at the end of that week, that's the end of the payments. It's fine if you don't necessarily have the payments drip out themselves over 3 to 6 months. But what I need you then to do is to be someone who's really smart with money and can make sure that you're taking that money coming into the business and you're planning out where that needs to go over the next couple months. The one baked in, I would say, leverage point about monthly recurring revenue, and having payments going out, every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, is the fact that it usually kind of is almost this like built-in operating system that allows you to manage cash better. Because if I was to hand you $100,000 right now, and you're not good at cash management, you're going to blow through that $100,000. If I give that to you in increments of $10,000 over an extended period of time, you're only going to be able to typically do so much damage because you're only getting so much money at a time. So you have more opportunity to be able to adjust it and turn things around. So I really want to make sure, as number 2, you have a 3 to 6 month cash reserve. You are somebody who is not going to wait for tough times to happen for you to start focusing on saving. You are looking at your numbers regularly and consistently, and you are focusing on building monthly recurring revenue. So again, this is just really a matter of how can we get the cash to weather the storm. Think about your money is your bunker. So we really want to make sure that you have some good, nice, safe support around you. Now, the other thing, which is number 3, is going to be looking at how your offers need to be adapted to shift to the market. And here's the thing I want to say with this. This does not mean that you have to create a bunch of new offers necessarily, right? Like for me, I wouldn't say that I've created a ton of new offerings in the last 2 years. I've created a handful of a couple, but I wouldn't say a ton by any means compared to, say, some competitors. But what I mean by this is you have to optimize your offers to be needed in the current market or in a shifting market. And what I mean by that is this is not a moment where anything can feel like a nice to do, a nice to have, or a nice to invest into. When somebody is going to invest during a tough economic time or a shifting market, they're not investing in a nice to have service. They're not investing in a nice to have program. They're investing in things that they deem and feel and think are essential to their survival and their thriving during this time. So if your offering is not something that somebody sees to be a necessity, to be a actual need for them to survive and maintain through these times, it means that you're going to see that reflected in your sales, and you're going to see it reflected in the amount of people that are investing with you. So how do we fix this? How do we focus on this? It's really focusing on the urgent, the pain point specific problems of why someone needs you. So this means, for example, not marketing things of, well, when you work with me, 12 months from now, we're going to help you to do this. Or like long term, this is where we're going to get you. We want to think if we're in like a really difficult economic time and people are wanting to see, results, they're wanting to see movement, they want to see signs of momentum, telling them that they're going to be in a great place 2 years from now is not necessarily going to make them excited about investing. So we want to look at what are more relevant promises, what are more relevant outcomes that I can make sure they know that I feel comfortable to say, we will help you to achieve blank. So even pain points, right? When I'm speaking to pain points in marketing, if I'm seeing, we talked about earlier the signs, if I'm seeing that someone is having longer sales cycles, well, I might want to speak to that and say, hey, are you somebody who feels like you're having longer sales cycles? It's taking you 6 to 10 days to close somebody who used to close in 48 hours. If so, you're not alone. And we basically are going to teach you how to be able to consistently convert people, even though the timeline has shifted. So it's speaking to and acknowledging what the ideal client during a changing time is going to experience. And it's also saying, how are you going to help fix that? How are you going to help that person to overcome it? And so the pain points of how you talk about your service and your offer should be very relevant to what that person's experiencing today, not just in general around your offer or in general around your service, but specifically today. What are they going through? What are they seeing? What are they hearing? What are they experiencing? And how can you speak to that with your offer? And most importantly, how can you speak to the goals they have right now? Not in general with your offer or in general with your industry, but when it comes to right now, if they invest with you, what do they want the most? And are you speaking to that versus just the general messaging that you always have had around your offer? And I want to clarify because I don't want this to be misunderstood. This is not to say that you're giving false promises. You're not just throwing out whatever you want to say to make someone invest. What you're doing is you're taking the true and the trusted outcomes that you know for your offer or service, and you're actually giving those context to the current times. One of the easiest ways to win, regardless of what's happening in the market, is to make sure that your marketing is in consideration of the market. So like if someone like myself, say as a business coach, is seeing so much change happen all over the world and I just didn't acknowledge it, you'd think, okay, this feels like it's not really landing with me because everything she's saying is not at all what I'm experiencing. Right. So, one of the things of even why I wanted to record today's episode for you was because I knew that this was something you're experiencing. This is something that you are going to feel. If you're not feeling already, you're going to feel at some point in your business. And so, it would be a disservice of me to not talk about it. And instead, we can make this a place where we do talk about it. And now you have a place to come back to. You can ask questions about this in the Ambitious Network. We can have a communication around it, right? You can have somebody to go to for what you're experiencing in a current moment. And you can be that same person for your ideal client. You can be the person who's acknowledging what they're experiencing and that they feel safe to come to and to talk to about it because you're acknowledging it. So you really want to look at making sure that your marketing is really dialed to what's happening in the current market. And by that, we mean specific pain point messaging, specific desires to their current moments right now, and also making sure that your offer feels essential and not a nice to have. It must be a need to have in order for people to invest during trying times. Now, number 4 is really focusing on retention and relationships. I will say one of the things that's going to help every single business, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you are, is retention. Because if you are somebody that has a really loyal client base, if you're somebody who has clients that love your offers, love your experience, love your service, happy clients are clients that frankly cost a lot less to retain than it would take for you to acquire new clients. Okay. So when you're in a difficult time in the world or in your business, what you actually want to do more than ever before is you want to focus on how can I make sure that my existing clients are not only satisfied, but they are overwhelmingly happy with the service. Because when your clients are happy, they stay. And if you have clients that stay, it's going to be 10x easier than you trying to find, 5, 7 new clients versus having the existing 5 to 7 clients that you're working with right now re-sign into their existing service or another service with you. And this can also, with a tone of, retention, but also relationships, this can also be seen with community. I will say, when times are difficult in the world, people more than ever want community. We want connection. We want to feel like we're around other people who understand us and who get what we're going through in business and who understand our experience. And so, one of the things that I will say is that there's a real opportunity for every single business owner right now to leverage building a stronger community. This can be through social media. It can be through DM conversations you have with people. It can be giving to your email list. It could be creating a free community. You really want to think about, how can I pour into my audience? Because the building of the community is really something that, again, is going to be fostering the relationships of the people that you already have underneath your nose. So many people, when they are feeling resistance around sales, will feel like, okay, well, how do I go and get myself, 20 new clients or 25 new clients? But I would also invite you to think about how many of those 25 clients you want to work with are sitting right underneath your nose right now. The people that are in your community, the people who just need more relationship with you, more connection with you to want to invest. Instead of trying to say, how can I go sell someone on me right now? How can I go sell someone on wanting to work with me? Sell someone on investing in my service? Ask yourself, how can I go serve my community on social, free community, email list, in my DMs? How can I go serve my audience to literally create a no-brainer opportunity for someone to be supported with me than in a paid offering? So you really want to focus on times where you feel like you're having maybe less lead flow coming in, less messages coming in, less applications happening. You have people underneath your nose right now that you're working with or that have been in your community surrounding forever and are going to be 10 times easier to build business off of and to be able to nurture those relationships and continue those together than the idea of starting a whole new relationship with someone, especially in a time where we're already struggling with trust. So, the other thing that I would say around messaging, and this is the thing that I really want to hammer home around marketing, which is number 5. People need to be seen in the pain they're experiencing, and people need to feel like you understand their goals and their desires. Something that will sink the boat during a trying time when you are marketing is marketing fear. And that is because people will initially invest with someone who scares them, because it means that, okay, whoa, this person is the crystal ball. They're telling me I got to do this. I got to act on it. I got to act on it. But the person that we invest with, not just short term, but long term, is the person that we feel like we can truly trust. And someone said to me, Kate, well, should I be doing more agitational marketing? Should I be doing more of this marketing? And I said, listen, if you are somebody who's already terrified and scared of things happening in the world and all the situations that are happening, who do you want to invest with? The person who says, this is the reason your business is going to go under. This is the reason you're never going to make it. This is the reason that you'll never succeed. Or do you want someone who says, hey, I see you in what you're experiencing. I feel you. I know you're probably having A, B, and C occur right now. And I want to let you know, here's how I overcome this. Here's how I navigate it. And here's how I'd be supported to help you to be able to get to the other side, right? Like, here's how we can make sure you win, even in the face of resistance. So the thing I want to say with marketing right now is a lot of people can generate, and I've seen it happen, and it's unfortunate because it's manipulative, but I've seen people generate quick cash off the fact that they're playing into fear. Like, if you don't do this thing, your business will never sell. If you don't do this thing, you'll never get clients during these times. And people who oftentimes buy into that type of thing are people who don't necessarily have long-term vision. They're very in the short term of like, what I need to do right now. And they can't really think or see further than that. But then what happens is when, again, we talked about those 11 months, when the veil lifts, they feel manipulated because they feel like this was just a basically leveraging their pain for your own personal gain. And so instead, we want to be the lead. We want to be the confident person. We want to be the one who acknowledges the circumstances and also looks to showcase all the opportunities of how you can still navigate what's in front of you. So we're not looking to be the person who says, there's no storms here. It doesn't rain here. If you come to my side of the internet, you will never experience pain ever. Guess what's going to happen in the first moment that that person experiences pain? Now I don't trust you. Now it tells me that whatever you marketed to me was literally just a scam to try to get me to invest. So anyone who says like, okay, well, if you come to my side of town, you're not going to have or experiencing any of these problems. Well, that can feel really sexy, right? Sounds sexy. You mean if I invest with so-and-so, I will never have to care about anything happening in the world? Well, on a short-term basis, even for me, wow, that would be really great. That would sound really enticing. But when I experience that resistance, now I'm pissed because you told me if I came into your world that I wouldn't experience resistance. Whereas, let's go to person B. Person B says, listen, there's a lot of resistance and change that's going to happen in the world. And I'm going to be the first person to tell you, you're going to experience it. When you buy a house in this area, you will experience at some point a tornado that's going to pass. The difference is when you buy a house that's made by us, we build it in such a way that means that the damage will either not occur or will be decreased by 70% of what other businesses will. So here's what I want to note between these two. When you're person B, I'm acknowledging the environment. I am pre-handling. And if you guys have listened to George's customer journey episode, this is really important. It's one of his 5 steps. People don't trust people who don't pre-handle difficulty. So if you are in your marketing being like, not an issue here, we make money here, we scale here, nothing's going to touch us. The first time someone experiences resistance, when you've said there's no resistance on your side of town, now I don't trust you. When you are a business that markets and says, listen, you will experience resistance. You will feel times where things feel difficult. And I'm here to support you and give you the strategy to be able to handle that faster and easier than anybody else. But yes, you're still going to experience it. You have such a deeper trust because they've acknowledged the difficulty that's going to come your way. And when that difficulty arises, as it will, it means that you're going to trust them as a lead, as a resource for you, instead of the person who gave you this dream that wasn't real in an effort to basically have a quick conversion. And ultimately losing trust with you, meaning long-term, you don't trust them as a business and as a brand anymore, versus the other person who acknowledged it was going to happen and told you that they would lead you through it. So number 5 is you have to tighten the messaging up. You have to really make sure that you're leading to shift your content, your messaging, to acknowledge the stress levels that people might be feeling, acknowledge the uncertainty that they might feel, acknowledge, how they might want to take caution in certain things in their business or in the transformation that you provide for them. You want to be the lead at the front who acknowledges it, but helps to guide them anyways. Number 6 is going to be probably, I would say, that the underbelly of all of it. And that is the fact that you must have a bulletproof mindset to be able to experience all the resistance and still have resilience during times of, for example, a recession. You have to have a very, very, very strong mindset to know that difficult times in business, like we talked about with the stats, are going to happen. That's going to be an inevitable for every business owner. You're going to experience a season where things are going to be very difficult from a sales perspective, marketing perspective, offer perspective. It happens everywhere. And you want to remember that because you experience a resistance, it doesn't mean your business is going to fail. It doesn't mean your business is going under. It means that we have an opportunity to pivot. It doesn't mean that because something's coming, this is the moment that your business fails. It's also really important from a mindset perspective to surround yourself with people who will acknowledge these conversations, who will acknowledge the environment, and who also have strategies and ways to be able to navigate it. Just kind of like we went back to with messaging, right? We were talking about the person who doesn't acknowledge versus the person who does. That's also not just important for you in marketing, but also for your own support systems. You want to make sure that if you are going to be surrounded by people right now, you're not surrounding yourself with people who won't acknowledge the elephant in the room. You need people around you who ultimately can guide you on acknowledging the current circumstance and also helping you to say, okay, so here's how we're going to navigate it. Here's what we're going to do. You don't want people who invalidate the experience, and you also don't want anyone who catastrophizes the experience. Meaning, if you go to someone, they say, yep, well, like this is when businesses die. This is when businesses go under. We want people to look at the opportunity for growth, the opportunity for expansion, and where can we pivot and get innovative to make sure that we always are thinking, a couple steps ahead for our own growth and success. And one of the important mindsets you have to have is that you have to stay grounded in the long-term vision. It can get really difficult during, and you probably even have this in your life, when you're in these really difficult times, you're like, I can't even focus on the future. I can't even focus on thinking long-term vision because I'm stuck in just what I'm experiencing right now. I'm stuck in just the moments that I'm already going through. How can I possibly think about my business in the next 3 to 5 years? How can I think about my business in the next 10 to 20 years when it feels like I might not even survive the next 3 to 6 months? The thing I want to say is you will not overcome the next 3 to 6 months because that 3 to 6 months is going to require you to see how getting through it would bring you to that long-term vision. The only why that is actually deep enough to truly help you to overcome those difficult resistance periods of 3 to 6 months of what you're going to have to go through is the fact that you have that vision. You know what you want to achieve. You've got your eye on the prize of what you're looking to do, and that you're going to sustain and hang on to that vision regardless of how rocky the waters are, right? So when we, you know, are in the middle, again, I know it's just the easiest analogy to give. If we're in the middle of a storm and we know that there's lightning and there's rain and there's wind and all of these things, you can say, okay, great. Well, like I give up. Or you can say, listen, I'm going to just breathe through this, bunker down, stay inside. And after that, it's going to come and it's going to go and we move on. Right. You realize that this is a season. It is a period. And so you're going to bunker down with some of the strategies we talked about, right? Tightening up your messaging, focusing on your retention, your relationships with your community, optimizing your offer and the way that you're positioning it, managing your cash flow, diversifying some of your income streams, right? You can do that. That is the bunkering down. You're going to bunker down and focus on the needle movers. And then when you do that, you can say, okay, great. I am only doing that because I know where this business can go. I know where this business is headed. I know the vision of what I can do with this, and I'm not done. And this storm is not the thing that's going to take my business out. I'm not letting the next 3 to 6 to our earlier stat, 11 months be the difference of whether my business is around for the next 11 years. So let's get to work. That's what we need. When we are experiencing massive shifts and changes in the world, and I will be right there with you. I've had those moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, because there's massive changes happening. But then I remember all that I've put into this and all that I have, created. And when I had those trying times, I'm like, I am not done yet. And this season is not taking me out from the big overarching vision and thing that I know in my heart and in my soul that I am designed to do. This is where the business is meant to go. And this season is not going to be the reason I'm not successful. This season is not going to be the reason that this business stops here. And so you have to have that bulletproof mindset of recognizing that this is a season and you have to focus on the long-term vision of what you know in your heart, with your team, with your clients is possible for you and for your business. And the last of all of these is streamlining and simplifying. This is where we cut unnecessary tools, we cut unnecessary subscriptions, we cut unnecessary expenses, we automate wherever we can, and we lean into what is really, really, really moving the needle. What are the things that are the most effective in the business and leaning into those, right? So the thing I want to say is when you're really, really strong, right? When your business is super strong, and what I mean by that is your marketing's working, your sales are flowing, your cash flow's managed, there's money coming in, things are dialed. When you're super strong, you physically have the ability with your business to handle more weight, which means to handle more bloat, to handle more within the business. When you're struggling, when sales are not flowing the way that they used to, when the marketing is not activating the way it once did, when the sales cycles are longer, when maybe you're starting to have to tap into those cash reserves, this is where you have to be really conscious of, okay, I am getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And so I need to be really conscious, where do I need to hang on to what weight? Meaning if I, let's just say, have, again, thinking about me hiking and I'm really strong at the beginning and I've got 4 bags on my back and one is full of food, the other one is full of water, and the other one is maybe some entertainment and the other one is clothing. Well, if I start to get really weak and I can't carry as many bags, which bag do you think I'm going to get rid of? Right? The entertainment. And that's because we need food, we need water, we need clothing. So what happens when we're looking at these times where we're feeling extra strain is that we need to be really conscious of not removing everything. This is not by any means to say, kill every investment and remove every team member. It's not to say that. It's to say that, when business is going really well, and I see this all the time with scaling businesses, when business is going really well, we have a tendency to operate and invest and to spend based off the assumption things are going to continue to go well, right? So we have a lot of this bloat that happens in the business. And the thing that's really important for people is that when you're in these times that do feel a little bit more difficult, we have to be able to say, okay, great. Well, where can we decrease the bloat? Where can we really go back to just what moves the needle and absolutely nothing else? So this can also mean, as an example, say you are somebody who has a core marketing channel. So I'm just going to say for, information purposes, let's just say it's Instagram. If you have your core marketing channel as Instagram, but you're somebody who's got LinkedIn and email and podcasts and TikTok and YouTube that you're paying for, the area you have to protect around your investments, say you have an agency who manages all of those, you might say, hey, I really need to cut back to just doing podcasts and Instagram because we need to reduce expenses and I have to protect the needle mover that helps to protect the outcome. So this is not to say that you're supposed to cut back and just never spend during these times. I would actually say investing, is a very important thing during these times because you need to have support, but it has to be in the right areas. It can't just be general support. It shouldn't just be, I'm just investing to invest. It needs to be having a really, really good critical analysis of where is support needed. Where do you need to move the needle and who do you need to help you to get there? Is it somebody doing it for you, meaning you have very little time? Or is it because you don't know what to do, which means that you need someone to teach you how to do it, like a consultant? So this is really where you're going to lean into removing anything that's not necessary and reducing the bloat that is happening in the business, which typically is a byproduct of extra resources you had when things were going really well that you may not have if you're starting to come up against some resistance based on the current market. So today, I wanted to talk about this topic because I really want to normalize what happens when things change in the world and the domino that has on us in business, right? We went over a little bit of the understanding of how to know whether your business is experiencing some of the resistance in the world. Is it impacting your business? What are stats, right? We went over the stats that also helped us to understand how frequent is this? How common am I going to be experiencing this? And should I end up not only, having this go through and pass by over my business, but also I'm seeing the impacts of it. How do I prep for it and how do I navigate it during these times? That's what we found, obviously, within the 7 steps, which was helping you to kind of go into those 7 areas for your business to use those as a way to really become resilient around resistance. So listen, I know that today's topic is not maybe as, dare I say, exciting and uplifting as mindset episodes or personal development or sometimes, sexy marketing and sales. But here's the thing I will say is that the thing that really allows businesses to succeed long term is not always going to be the sexy stuff. I really want to applaud you if you've gotten to this place in today's episode, listening all the way through, investing this time into yourself, being willing to see resistance and acknowledge the resistance that's happening and look it, right in the face and say, okay, great, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I'm not going down without a fight. That's what happened today. That's what you're doing by investing in yourself, by listening to information like this and pouring into really understanding it and how you can adapt with your business. And I also want to say this is something that I know many people don't have a resource to go to. So if you are somebody who feels like there was a download for you today, if there was a takeaway that you'd love to share, I can't tell you enough. I love hearing your messages and just your takeaways from the episodes. I can't tell you how much it fills my bucket. I am over here always wondering, like, does this land? Do you love it? Does this kind of feel like it hits home for you? And I always love to hear from you. So if you have a couple minutes, I would absolutely love to ask a quick favor. If you are somebody who loves, the Ambitious podcast, you listen each week. If you're one of our OG listeners, thank you so, so much. We obviously could not do what we do without all of your incredible support. And so I just wanted to say, if you have a quick moment, if you guys can hit that follow, that subscribe button where you're listening, if you want to leave a review on the show or inside of the Ambitious Network, it would mean the world to us. All the feedback from you really does allow us to make sure that this show and every single episode is tailored to what you're going through, what you want, and what would be supportive for you as a person and also as a business owner. And so I can't wait to bring more topics and conversations just like today to you. If you have anything you want to talk to me about in extension from today's topic, I would love to hear takeaways from you. So if you want to send me a message in the DMs, or if you also want to shoot me a message in our chat inside the Ambitious Network, it's our free community, which is all designed for us as women and business owners to connect. And if you're not quite in there yet, message us the word ambitious, and I would love to add you in there. But with all that being said, I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. And as always, stay ambitious.